I have turned on the camera for some Vanguard news, and that means it's some good stuff. 50 Cards just launched this new budget deck thing again. I know last time they like instantly sold out and people loved them, so apparently they're redoing it now. I don't really know the specifics, but if you're interested in that, go check out 50cards.shop and use the code Solemn for a discount, as well as your other Vanguard needs, of course. And as always, if you still need a beautiful playmat, go to zerodamagegaming.com and use the code Solemn for a discount. Now, first of all, we have this little cutie. This honestly looks like a Grand Blue card that made its way into Dark State somehow. It says, when this unit is placed on R, if you have a Vanguard with Greedon in its card name, cost Soul Blast 1, choose a card with Desire Devil in its card name in your drop, put it into your soul, and this unit gets power +5, so this kind of like fixes your soul. Soul Blast something and put something else in. Then we have this little bird thing, continuous in deck. If you have a Vanguard with Greedon in its card name, this card may be counted as having the same card name as all cards in your soul with Desire Devil in their card name, so this like ups the amount of the names you have in soul. And then continuous on R and G, if there are 3 or more cards with Desire Devil in their card names in your soul, this unit gets power +5 and shield +5. So a bigger shield and a bigger beater. Alright, finally we have Masky Boy. We have continuous. This card can only be ridden from a grade 3 with Greedon in its card name. Continuous, the number of cards in your damage zone for you to lose becomes 7. So okay, some part of the mask thing already taken over, and then of course also the same damage skill it already had. Then act on V, once per turn, cost remove a card with Greedon in its different card name from this unit from hand, soul, or drop. Look at the top 7 cards of your deck, choose up to 1 Desire Devil from among them, reveal it and put it into your hand and shuffle the deck. But then of course the most important skill that we're all waiting for, auto on V once per turn. At the end of the battle, this unit attacked. If your soul has 3 or more cards with Desire Devil in their card names, cost, put 3 stand rear guards into soul, stand this unit, and it gets power +5. So for the first time ever, I guess Greedon now has more attacks, because instead of putting in 4, you put in 3. I'm not really much of a Greedon player, so if you are, let me know in the comments down below if you actually like this. Is this like a big upgrade? I know the mask decks have been considered very good overall so far, like mostly solid upgrades. So is this the same, or were you expecting more? Then for premium, a pretty important change in my opinion. I'm pretty excited for this one. The counter charge soul charge heals from back in the day. If you don't know, basically you had these heals that when you G-guarded with them, you could bind it and another heal from your drop, and then you could counter charge or soul charge. Basically, you could have like extra resources just for G-guarding, which was really cool. The issue was, of course, they were the old G triggers, so they had less shield and less defensive and offensive power, so they were just not as good as V heals, and they gradually fell off. Then heal guards came out, and of course at that point there was like very little decks that could still justify running these. Now in the history collection, just like a lot of triggers have been getting upgrades, these have as well, and so they now have more shield and more power. And I really like this, because the introduction of heal guards kind of made it to where you were kind of forced on them, and so it wasn't as exciting to at least deck build in the heal slot. Now of course in premium all the other slots are still super exciting to deck build with, loads of options and considerations, but the heals were usually like, alright, here's the heal guards. You had to have like a super specific reason to play something else. Like Gear Chronicle, for example, would play the Steam Maiden one because you could find it with a cat or something like that. But now that these are getting the power buff and the shield buff, I'm starting to kind of reconsider. Now, will every deck suddenly cut Heal Guardians? Absolutely not. Heal Guardians are still amazing. They're also slowing down the format, because suddenly like the most unfair greedy rushes just aren't as worth it anymore when they can get shut down by a Heal Guardian. But some decks actually do maybe consider running 1 or 2 of these, and so overall I'm a pretty big fan. I'm thinking about something like Mega Colony even. They run so much soul and counterblast now. I know high class Moth like already fixes the counterblast stuff, but the soul is still like a really big deal, and so maybe being able to run like 1 of this in that deck could already be really cool, and I'm sure there's other decks like that. So overall, big ups, pretty big fan of this change. Just a little more options for deck building is always welcome. But now the card that completely, you know, redefines this stream, and once again this would be the main reason, let's say, to put on the camera today. This card is the Harmonics Messiah re-release errata and so forth. First of all, it says you can only play 1 of this in your deck, which is cool. Alright. Then it has the typical normal stride skill, and then it says auto, when this unit is placed on V, choose any number of your locked cards and unlock them. Choose the same number of cards from your hand as the number of cards unlocked by this effect and discard them. So this is just a generic unlock that anyone can play now. That part of the skill doesn't really matter, except for the fact that if you are a Link Joker player, suddenly every deck might run 1 of this because of the other skills that we will get to, and so your life is getting even harder. As a Grand Blue player who usually has issues with Chaos just because like the deck just can't do anything beyond bad bountying them, this is really cool. This is like cool, a little fix. With that being being said, wasting a turn just on unlocking might not even be that great. But then the next skill, auto on V and G zone. When this unit is placed on V or at the beginning of your turn, if this card is face up, your damage zone has 2 or less cards, and no new card was put into your damage zone during your opponent's preceding turn, cost put the top card of the deck into damage zone and draw a card. So this is anti-damage denial, but you do need to be aware of the fact that it already needs to be face up. So whenever you think like, oh wow, now damage denial doesn't do anything. No, not really. It's still gonna be very awkward to damage deny people. It'll just have like another dimension to it, which I don't really mind. And then finally, because yes, this thing has a billion skills on it, auto in G zone. When your grade 1 unit is placed by riding from a grade 0, if you went second, cost reveal this card and put a Guardian Shield ticket into your hand. So just like the quick shield, where if you go second you get a free shieldy card in your hand, this is another one like that. So this is automatically probably going to be a staple in every G zone, except for like the very tightest ones. But even then I would consider, I don't know, I think this will be in every G zone. Suddenly going second gives you 2 cards extra rather than just the 1 quick shield. Now what does that ticket do? Boom! This is basically a quick shield, but instead of giving 5k, it gives 20k. So once again, they are doing some defensive creep and I'm all for it. You go second, cool, here's yet another shield. Now it will also feel great to just discard the 5k quick shield because you know, cool, I have this 20k for free anyway. And beyond that, something that not many people might be thinking of is if there's any deck that hand rips and then gets value from the fact that they hand ripped, those decks also get worse. So for example, if you are Stunverse and you're playing like the Eradicator reverse thing, so they rip a card from your hand with the bind and then suddenly you have to bind from deck or they get a bunch of power. Nope. Here's another one that just vanishes. If you are a Nubatama player playing Rine, you rip 2 cards from their hand. Nope. Here's 2 little quick shield type cards. If you are a Chaos player trying to lock from hand, nope. Here's another one of those tickets. So all of those types of cheeky decks that usually aren't the most healthy interactions, because hand ripping is just not a fun mechanic overall, those are getting worse, which is I guess a positive in my book. Also, since this is a order, it also gets around guard restrict. So once again, if you're doing like hope on dump or variance hard leg type of stuff, suddenly the 5k shield, which might not have been enough to guard an attack back then, this 20k will be enough. Do note, of course, since it is a blitz order, you have to choose whether you use this or the quick shield in the same turn. And if you start playing Regalis Piece defensive thing, like that ball anti-OT thing, you also want to make sure that it doesn't conflict with this card. So if you use this card and you are also holding the Regalis Piece, too bad, you're gonna have to choose. So overall, while this card doesn't make deck building harder, because I think every deck will play it, it does make playing more interesting, because as more decks start playing more blitz orders, you suddenly need to start making real considerations on when you use these. So overall, once again, a real positive for the game. I'm very excited for this. Again, I've always been a fan of defensive creep in this game. I'd rather have players have the option to live through stuff and then outplay their opponent in a longer game rather than going, haha, I got sacked on turn 3. So this is just overall positive in my eyes. With that being said, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you soon. Ciao.